Throughout human history, there have always been mysteries, seductive whispers from ages long past that continue to fascinate us. Imagine ancient civilizations wielding technologies so advanced that, today, we would call them nothing short of magic. Right now, it feels as if we're entering an era where we're trying to reverse engineer those mysteries. Yet, the more we uncover, the more questions we find ourselves asking. How did they achieve such extraordinary precision without modern tools? Join us as we pull back the curtain on ancient technologies that defy the laws of physics and on the hidden secrets of lost civilizations. Ancient civilizations achieved extraordinary feats in construction and technology. They built pyramids, temples, and monumental structures with a level of precision that still astonishes the modern world. But their achievements didn't stop there. These civilizations also developed advanced irrigation systems, remarkable techniques in metallurgy, and sophisticated medicine. Roman engineers, for example, designed aqueducts stretching for dozens of kilometers using nothing but gravity, demonstrating a deep understanding of hydraulics. Meanwhile, the Maya created highly detailed calendars and possessed solid knowledge of astronomical cycles. Elsewhere, the Chinese invented paper, gunpowder, the compass, and printing technology, all long before the Western world even knew such innovations existed. The exploration of ancient technological capabilities reveals just how advanced these early societies truly were. By studying their tools and manufacturing methods, we gain a deeper appreciation for the skill and ingenuity of people from the distant past. Unlocking the secrets of ancient technology not only helps us preserve cultural heritage, it also sparks inspiration for modern innovation as we learn how these ancient tools and techniques actually worked. By reconstructing old methods, today's researchers don't just connect with history, they open up new possibilities for the future. For example, studying ancient water management systems could help us discover better ways to conserve and utilize water resources today. When researchers set out to decode ancient technology, they follow a careful, step-by-step process. First, they thoroughly investigate the technology to understand how it operated, examining artifacts and even ancient artwork to gather information. Next, they attempt to reconstruct the technology using modern materials and tools. This detailed process reveals the challenges ancient people faced, and at the same time, it showcases the incredible creativity of those cultures. In the end, learning from the past is truly the key to building a more innovative and sustainable future. Decoding ancient mysteries. Randall Carlson has put forward a fascinating idea that ancient civilizations may once have harnessed plasma technology, a theory that completely challenges our conventional understanding of history and technology. Carlson suggests that the people who built monuments like the pyramids thousands of years ago actually possessed advanced technologies that humanity is only beginning to rediscover today. For example, he points to the Great Pyramid of Giza, also known as the Pyramid of Khufu. This structure has an exact slope angle of 51.84 degrees, a number that is anything but random. According to Carlson, this unique angle was chosen for some mysterious reason, possibly connected to energy flows or the way the pyramid was designed to tap into natural forces. Even more astonishing is the fact that the Great Pyramid's location almost perfectly aligns with the geographical center of all the continents on Earth, adding yet another layer of mystery to its construction. Carlson also notes that the chambers and corridors inside the pyramid are perfectly aligned with celestial bodies. The four air shafts of the Great Pyramid point directly toward the stars Alpha Draconis, Beta Ursae Minoris, Orion's Belt, and Sirius. This arrangement shows that the builders possessed an incredibly advanced understanding of astronomy. By highlighting these details, Carlson implies that the ancients not only had a deep knowledge of the world around them, but also knew how to use that knowledge to create structures capable of harnessing energy in ways that modern humanity is only just beginning to explore. This idea suggests that our ancestors may have been far more advanced than we ever imagined. The lost city of Palenque. Was this ancient Maya king piloting a spaceship? For years, a single relief in the abandoned Maya city of Palenque has sparked countless theories about ancient aliens. What is it about this place that leaves people both baffled and intrigued? Palenque was once a thriving Maya metropolis. Today, it looks like something straight out of an Indiana Jones movie. Set atop a lush hillside in the Mexican state of Chiapas, Palenque isn't just a beautiful ruined city, it's a spectacular showcase of ancient engineering, There's a palace complex with vaulted corridors, stucco murals, steam baths, and even a granite toilet complete with a running water system. Even though we tend to think of plumbing as a modern invention, the Maya had it back in the 7th century. One of Palenque's most famous structures is the Temple of the Inscriptions, where the Maya recorded 180 years of history and a list of their kings directly onto the stone walls. If only every civilization had done the same, archaeologists today would have a much easier job. The most famous name on that list is King Pakal. Crowned at just 12 years old, he ruled an entire kingdom, while most kids his age would still be watching SpongeBob. He reigned from 615 to 683 AD, in an era when the average life expectancy was barely 30. Pakal was exceptionally sharp and intelligent, guiding Palenque into a golden age of construction and the advanced waterworks I just mentioned. His palace was a marvel of engineering, so finely built that modern researchers are still amazed by it. So, how did he do it? The Temple of the Inscriptions is where Pakal was finally laid to rest, a tomb he designed for himself. After ruling for so long, he had plenty of time to prepare everything. This is an 8-tiered pyramid with its entrance at the top, and his burial chamber lies about 25 meters deep inside. His sarcophagus is massive, weighing in at 20 tons, and is topped by a 5-ton stone lid. The city was rediscovered in the late 1700s, but it wasn't until the 1950s that true exploration began. Mexican archaeologist Alberto Ruiz Lhuillier, while excavating and recording the temple, discovered a hidden floor covering a secret staircase clogged with rubble. It took him 4 years of persistent digging, but he never gave up. In the end, he finally squeezed his way into a burial chamber deep inside the pyramid and found the untouched tomb of an ancient king. It was a discovery on par with finding King Tutankhamun's tomb in America. Pakal was buried along with numerous men and women who had been sacrificed to accompany him into the afterlife. But the reason Palenque has become so famous recently isn't its engineering marvels, it's the relief carved onto Pakal's sarcophagus lid, which some people claim shows the great king piloting an ancient spaceship. According to these theories, all of Pakal's knowledge was advanced technology granted to him from the cosmos. Was Pakal flying a rocket? This image pops up everywhere on shows like Ancient Aliens. Those who believe in the ancient astronaut hypothesis insist that Pakal's tomb proves the Maya were aided by beings from the stars in building their city and civilization. But perhaps we've been looking at this all wrong. Most people view the image horizontally, but it's actually meant to be seen vertically. If you rotate it, you'll see the king lying on his back, gazing upward, reaching toward what looks like a tree of life. The surface of the sarcophagus lid is covered in ancient symbols of gods, sacrifice, and the Maya underworld. Pakal isn't launching into space, he's shown underground, representing a life fully lived. But most of us never understand the true meaning behind these symbols, because we're too captivated by the image of a spaceship. No matter how you look at it though, Palenque still holds some of the most fascinating secrets of the Maya civilization. Vortex energy and ancient engineering. Randall Carlson also introduces another fascinating concept: vortex energy. Vortices are natural phenomena that can be observed in tornadoes, swirling water currents, and even the way galaxies spin throughout the universe. Vortex technology involves harnessing the spiraling motion of energy for practical purposes. Scientists and engineers continue to study vortex phenomena to better understand their underlying principles and explore ways to apply them in modern technology. Carlson theorizes that ancient civilizations may have fully understood, and even applied, the principles of vortex energy in their monumental architecture, such as the pyramids. He proposes that the pyramids, especially the Great Pyramid of Giza, were not merely elaborate tombs, but might have been constructed to serve a much greater purpose. The distinctive shape of the pyramid, with its sloping sides converging at the top, could actually create a special vortex energy effect. According to Carlson, there must be a transition between a cylindrical and spherical form, and through experimentation, he found that a specific angle helps minimize turbulent vortices. That angle, 51.84 degrees, may well be the key to creating or harnessing vortex energy. The pyramid's shape is thought to concentrate natural energy from the Earth and its surrounding environment. This concentrated energy could have been used by ancient people for a range of purposes, such as providing light or powering tools. Some believe that simply being inside a pyramid can have healing effects, possibly due to the vortex energy generated by its unique structure. This energy might also have been used in spiritual rituals or other ancient practices. If the ancients truly understood and utilized vortex energy technology, it would suggest their scientific knowledge went far beyond what we typically attribute to early civilizations. Studying structures like the pyramids could open new directions for us to harness and use energy more efficiently and sustainably in the future. King Arthur's Castle. King Arthur's Castle, could this be the real Camelot? Archaeologists have just uncovered the ruins of a royal palace dating back to the Dark Ages in Cornwall, England. This cliffside stronghold, echoing with legend and whispers of kings, may have once belonged to King Arthur himself, or at the very least, been the place where the legendary king was conceived. Since medieval times, Tintagel has been inextricably linked to the Arthurian legend. In their quest to find the real person behind the myth, archaeologists discovered a fortress perched on the cliffs, perfectly suited for a 5th or 6th century king. The ruins of Tintagel Castle lie amid pounding surf, rolling hills, and mists so thick there are days you can't even see your own hand in front of your face. According to the 12th century chronicler Geoffrey of Monmouth, Arthur was conceived at Tintagel in a clandestine affair between King Uther Pendragon and Igraine, the wife of Duke Gorlois of Cornwall. In the legend, it was the wizard Merlin who helped Uther disguise himself to be with Igraine, fulfilling a destiny to unite all of England under a single king. You can find this story in Geoffrey's History of the Kings of Britain, one of the most important books written after the fall of Rome. Researchers have found walls over a meter thick, slate floors, and numerous outbuildings, all proving that this was once a true castle complex. All around are fragments of pottery and broken glass. Archaeologists discovered bowls and plates from Turkey and North Africa, wine and olive oil from Greece, and glass cups from France. The only thing missing is a moat and a dragon. So, is this evidence that the legend might be true? Could this really be the birthplace of King Arthur? This is the first time in England that such structures have been found right in the heart of the Dark Ages, the very era when Arthur is said to have wielded his legendary sword, Excalibur. It was once thought that Tintagel was abandoned at the time Geoffrey claimed Arthur was conceived there, but archaeologists have now found abundant evidence of life, meaning Arthur really could have been born here, just as Geoffrey recorded. So, what happened to this place? Why, just a few centuries later, was the castle abandoned? And why did everyone leave their bowls and dishes behind? Scientists haven't found any evidence that Tintagel was destroyed, so conquest seems unlikely. Perhaps the site was struck by disease, forcing its inhabitants to flee. While the Cornwall archaeology team hasn't yet found Arthur's sword, they have provided a crucial snapshot of the period. There really was a ruler commanding a fortress in what is believed to be Arthur's homeland, just as the legend says, about 1,500 years ago. While it might not be Camelot, since Arthur was only a child then, this discovery makes it even more likely that the legend is rooted in more truth than most people realize. Forgotten cities on the Silk Road. Think your last weekend's hiking trip was epic? Imagine climbing the mountains of Uzbekistan and stumbling upon a medieval city buried in someone's backyard. It sounds like a joke, but it's real. Welcome to Tugun Bulak and Tash Bulak, two Silk Road cities that nobody ever mentioned before, simply because nobody knew they existed. For centuries, historians thought the Silk Road was just a dusty route connecting famous desert cities, but it turns out ancient merchants had a thing for cold climates and tough mountain trails too. These remote towns were indeed part of the Silk Road, but so small and isolated that history nearly forgot them. This top-tier archaeological adventure began with Farhod Maksudov, head of Uzbekistan's National Archaeology Center, and Michael Frachetti from Washington University in St. Louis. The two formed an unexpected archaeology crossover event. With the help of LiDAR technology, Farhod and Michael discovered Tugun Bulak, a bustling city perched more than 1,800 meters above sea level. The best part? It all started because a local official happened to find a strange pottery shard in his backyard. The archaeology team came to investigate and realized his house was built right on top of a medieval fortress. You have to wonder if the rent went up after that discovery. They first found Tash Bulak in 2011, then Tugun Bulak, a city about the size of the Vatican, high in the mountains, surrounded by defensive walls and the remnants of large-scale iron smelting operations. For reasons no one can quite explain, medieval Uzbeks looked up at these daunting mountains and decided, let's build our factories here. The mountains were rich in ore, and they needed strong fires for processing iron. Doing metallurgy on the mountaintop was actually genius, since the fierce winds worked like free industrial bellows. These people were working smart, not just hard, long before that became a modern catchphrase. Unfortunately, they didn't foresee the destruction their own success would bring. Large-scale iron production required fuel, which meant cutting down mountain forests, resulting in floods and ecological chaos. So, could you survive living on a mountaintop like that? Or would you prefer to stay down low, away from windstorms and landslides? The Welsh labyrinth. On the windswept highlands of Wales, ancient shepherds weren't just counting their flocks, they were constructing labyrinths so complex that even the lair of the Minotaur would be put to shame. These aren't your average garden mazes. They're massive ceremonial landscapes carved directly into the earth, and there's one place where you can still see them with your own eyes. These ancient mazes are called caedroia, and they're typically designed in a 7-ring pattern reminiscent of the Cretan labyrinth, the very style that famously confounded the Minotaur in Greek mythology. To put it plainly, the Welsh borrowed the Greek blueprint and put their own spin on it. People would perform ritual dances as they made their way through the labyrinth, though they weren't getting lost among towering hedges like in the movies. In fact, historians aren't even sure what exactly went on inside these labyrinths. But here's where things get even more interesting. Think these mazes are exclusive to Wales? Think again. Historian Mario Zaccaria discovered a caedroia in Petrella Tifonina, Italy, the only known example in the entire Mediterranean region. Why is it there? Who built it? Was it the result of some ancient tourist from Cardiff getting lost and deciding to settle down? Nobody really knows. Doggerland. Once upon a time, long before the Romans appeared, there was Doggerland, a lush, entirely real landmass that is now completely submerged beneath the waters between Britain and mainland Europe. You could call it Europe's forgotten child. I wish I could tell you that Doggerland was a fairy tale kingdom ruled by mermaids or alien kings, but the truth is much simpler. It was home to Mesolithic hunter-gatherers, living peaceful lives on rolling grasslands until their entire world was swept away by the sea. Ironically, this happened right around the same time as the Great Flood described in the Bible, about 1,200,000 years ago, at the end of the last ice age. Back then, the North Sea wasn't a sea at all, but a vast expanse of gently sloping hills. If you were a nomadic mountain climber, Doggerland would have been paradise. You might wonder how we even know all of this. Amazingly, archaeologists only unraveled the complex history of Doggerland thanks to seismic data collected by oil companies. It was the hunters of black gold who accidentally helped scientists reconstruct a digital map of prehistoric Europe. With modern technology, they have now recreated more than 4,600 square kilometers of ancient Doggerland. But mapping the land was only the beginning. Fishermen in the North Sea still regularly haul up ancient bones and tools, ghostly relics from the Stone Age. It's as if Europe was once submerged, and then, 10,000 years later, fishermen started pulling up bricks from a sunken cathedral. Doggerland may have vanished, but its cautionary tale is more relevant than ever. Stone Age people were driven from their homeland by climate change. Rising seas erased their world, and today millions live along the same coasts that were once Doggerland. Billions more live by shorelines around the globe, and unfortunately, our polar ice sheets aren't looking too stable these days. See the connection? Doggerland is both a story and a warning, a reminder that a world beneath the waves could be our own future. Noah's Lost Pyramid. A fragment from the Dead Sea Scrolls has revealed something astonishing. It turns out that Noah's Ark might not be what we always thought. This 2,000-year-old ancient text could be the very proof that Noah's Ark was, in fact, a pyramid. Here's a quick rundown on the Dead Sea Scrolls. 50 years ago, a Bedouin shepherd in Israel accidentally discovered a cave full of ancient scrolls near the Dead Sea. These became the famous Dead Sea Scrolls, which include about 800 manuscripts, with roughly 200 of them being pieces of the Hebrew Bible. Recently, the Israel Antiquities Authority used a special camera to scan tens of thousands of tiny fragments from these scrolls. Each fragment was photographed up to 28 times under different wavelengths of light. This cutting-edge imaging technology allowed researchers to decode texts that had previously been completely unreadable. According to Dr. Alexa Uzdiski, one of these newly uncovered texts describes Noah's Ark as a structure with ribs meeting at the top, forming the shape of a pyramid. That's intriguing, because it's not the only historical account to mention a pyramid-shaped ark. A 3rd century Greek translation of the Bible also described the ark as pyramid-like, and some medieval authors claimed its roof rose to a point. That leads to the theory that the ark was actually a pyramid, and that it could still be hidden somewhere in the ancient world, maybe in Egypt or Turkey. We just don't know its true location yet, or whether the legend is real at all. The lost cities of the Amazon. A stunning discovery about ancient cities has just been announced in South America. Scientists in Bolivia have uncovered evidence of advanced cultures that once thrived deep within the Amazon rainforest. Using state-of-the-art mapping technology to peer through the forest canopy and chart the ground below, they revealed the remnants of a lost urban network hidden in the wild. These aren't the fabled cities of Z or El Dorado. Instead, researchers have identified numerous residential areas that formed a much larger community, all interconnected by roads. What they found was a kind of urban fortress and a complex social center, very likely belonging to the Kasarabi culture, which flourished between 500 and 1400 AD. These settlements featured pyramids, massive temple complexes for rituals, and even a water distribution system that stretched for miles across the landscape. This network delivered clean water to smaller, outlying communities far from the city center. It's an extraordinary revelation because it proves that, at least in Bolivia, the Amazon was never just a wild land. It was shaped into a unique world by its native peoples who transformed the landscape to meet their needs. Yet, these settlements were abandoned suddenly about 600 years ago, even before the arrival of the Spanish. As of now, no one knows why. Rome's war machines. Yes, it's real, and it's just as wild as you're imagining. The Romans gave us roads, aqueducts, and those gladiator death matches. But did you know they also once dreamed up warships powered by oxen and armored chariots pulled by cattle? Somewhere between a military strategy manual and a medieval fever dream sits the work known as De Rebus Bellicis, which translates as On Matters of War, written in the 4th century AD. This book is packed with war machines so advanced they were centuries ahead of their time. To put it in context, the 4th century was not a great time in Italy. The Roman Empire was crumbling, battered by the Goths, Vandals, and Huns. It was the perfect moment to start inventing giant killing machines. The author of De Rebus Bellicis was clearly fed up with watching Rome get torn apart, so he came up with a slew of outlandish inventions meant to turn the tide for the army. Sadly, most of his ideas were ignored, though, looking back, some were probably 1,000 years ahead of their time. Take the armored warship, for example. Imagine a fleet of ships completely shielded in armor, impervious to arrows and whatever else enemies could throw at them. The Romans were this close to inventing the modern battleship, centuries before the age of naval warfare. Would it have worked? Maybe. Would it have looked awesome? Absolutely. But so far, there's no evidence the Romans ever actually built one. Then there's the supercharged catapult. The Romans were already famous for their siege weapons, but our mysterious author wanted to upgrade everything. He designed a kind of catapult with incredible range and firepower. If it had ever been built, it could have leveled an entire village with a single shot. The author even wanted to turn cattle into weapons of war. He proposed ox-powered galleys, mobile siege towers pulled by oxen, and even giant crossbows that ran on bovine muscle. Who needs wheels when you have livestock? It's almost as if someone was trying to invent a tank using farm animals. And speaking of tanks, the book includes those too, armored war wagons, straight out of a Roman Mad Max. These rolling fortresses would have allowed archers and infantry to fight from behind mobile, armored walls. Not only would this protect the soldiers from enemy fire, but these machines could also serve as mobile bases right on the battlefield. The ship Syracuseia. Syracuseia was said to be the largest transport ship of the ancient world, so gigantic that it couldn't even dock at Sicily after it was completed in 240 BC. According to legend, the ship was designed and overseen by the genius architect Archimedes, the legendary mathematician and physicist. So it's no wonder he managed to create the biggest vessel in history. Ancient historian Moschian described the ship as capable of carrying nearly 2,000 passengers and 1,800 tons of cargo, equipped with catapults and guarded by 200 soldiers. Yet, the ship only sailed once, on a short journey from Syracuse to Alexandria, where Pharaoh Ptolemy III accepted it as a personal gift. After that, no one knows what happened to the Syracuseia. Most historians believe it was simply too large for practical use and ended up abandoned, slowly rotting away in the harbor. Even so, the ship's technology was nothing short of astonishing. To protect the hull from marine organisms and algae, it was coated with horsehair and pitch. Researchers now believe Syracuseia was the world's very first example of anti-fouling technology, a method used to keep barnacles and other creatures from clinging to the hull and slowing or damaging the ship. Today, you can just buy anti-fouling paint, but 2,300 years ago, it was a lot more complicated. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, so you won't miss out on more fascinating videos about the world's greatest mysteries. See you next time.